basically, I just want to say that, start out by saying this is what I look like, and that I no longer live in Illinois. I'll tell you something about that as we go through this. I've been teaching for a real long time. I started out in 1969 or 68. I can't even remember anymore. But it's been more than 43 years, probably 45 years now, that I've been teaching. And I started out teaching this particular class. It's like a different world then, but I was, spent my entire adult life in living in the city of Chicago and teaching in Romeoville, and I taught online starting in about 1995 when we first started that kind of thing, and you needed your own website. We didn't have Blackboard then. But anyway, like I said, I've been teaching for a real long time. This is a picture of me and Jackie taken last year. We were out in front of our house. As you can see, this is kind of a typical place in Santa Fe, New Mexico. The adobe style houses, they have flat roofs, which are a real pain in the ass. But otherwise it's pretty nice here. It's very nice here. You can see we don't have grass. This is a drought place um, where it's a desert, so it's kind of strange. The weather can be either some rain, a lot of rain, or no rain. It just all depends. Anyway, we're standing here with our two dogs, Praja. I'm holding Praja, and Jackie's holding Lotus. And unfortunately, we don't have the dogs anymore. They both died. We didn't have them long. We rescued them from Scotty Rescue of Texas, and we they both died of lymphoma. When you get rescue dogs, you never know what their background was, and I don't have any idea what they were exposed to, but they wound up with this cancer, and they were really only with us for about 3 years. And they were great dogs, very, very good dogs. But um, Jackie and I are going to do a little bit of traveling during this summer and part of the fall. And then when we get back, we'll get dogs again. I've had dogs all my life, and it's hard to live without them. This is us again. We're sitting in front of the house. You can see we've got kind of it's a little bit more about the structure of the house. Anyway, we've got this um, sort of porch area that we built that wasn't originally with the house. The reason we put those bricks in there to create a kind of porch area is so the dogs, if they got out the door, they wouldn't run away, and we'd have to go chasing them. So anyway, that's just that story. But I'll just keep going and saying more about myself rather than start talking about dogs. This is us again in the meditation room. We meditate every day, and we normally have cushions on the floor. We took this picture because we used it to send to people at Christmas time, and so we took the cushions out because it looks better if we're just sitting on the floor. But normally there's meditation cushions, zafus, zabutons, were on the floor, and you can't see it, but there's a fence-like area. It's made of adobe brick, so that with a cute little gate on it to keep the dogs out. Because if you just laid cushions on the floor, they would see it as dog beds and go in there and you know have doggy all over it. So we wanted to keep the cushions on the floor, and so that's why we did it. And then actually, if you know anything about dogs, after a little while, maybe a week or two, they'll stay out of there anyway. But we don't take any chances. They're not allowed in there. Okay, so this is a little bit about Santa Fe. Santa Fe, New Mexico is the capital of Santa Fe, and this is a kind of picture, I've seen it on cards, of downtown Santa Fe. It's got the old look to it, like a very old town, in the plaza area. The rest of it's all modern, but this is done for the tourists. The tourism is a big part of the economy of the state of New Mexico, and particularly of Santa Fe. A lot of people come here, especially during the summer. We get some people come here during the ski season as well, but mostly it's in the summer. And natives and people who live here don't usually spend a lot of time in the plaza because everything's expensive. You know, you do your shopping and go to restaurants and stuff outside the plaza, mostly on the south side where I live, and it's much cheaper. Like I said, it's a capital. This is one of the government buildings, and so it's a capital of New Mexico. New Mexico is a very small state. It's only about somewhere between 2 and 2.5 million people here. That's about the size of Chicago. That's the whole state. The city of Santa Fe is only about 65,000, but it's the capital. The biggest city is Albuquerque. That's about 150,000, which is still relatively small. It's nothing like what you have in Illinois. I mean, I grew up in Rockford, Illinois, and essentially that was about the size of Albuquerque, 150,000. Something about myself. I promised you I'd talk about myself, and I haven't said much. Here's some characteristics about me that are a little bit different than most people. At least some of these are. The first thing is I would call myself a liberal or progressive. I fit well in Santa Fe because most of the people here are very liberal. This is a kind of a different place in the Southwest. Southwest is more conservative. You know, Texas is right next door, and so is Arizona, Colorado. We're surrounded by those states, and there's a lot of conservatives, especially in Texas. But the only exception would be Austin, Texas. Anyway, yeah, I'd call myself a liberal or progressive, as most people say it now. I don't know. I don't like I don't like labels. I don't really feel comfortable with that. But I just do it to simplify and let you know. On a lot of issues, I would say I'm not very liberal. I'm more conservative, but you know, that's more lifestyle stuff than political stuff. On political issues, I'm probably completely liberal. Um, you know, so my favorite candidates would be Bernie Sanders, uh, or somebody along those same lines. Um, anyway, I'm also a vegan. That is somebody who doesn't eat any animal products. Um, I'm also animal rights. Animal rights came first, and then becoming vegan becomes second because what really veganism started out with, now it's you know, plant-based diet is what they call it now, and you know, it's advocated for a lot of prevention of diseases like heart disease and cancer and that kind of stuff. But originally, it was, at least in my mind, is a way for animal rights people, that is, people who believe that animals shouldn't be used and abused by humans, that a way for them to boycott animal exploitation. So they became vegan. You know, you don't eat any meat because that's an exploitation of cows and other animals that are used for meat. You don't go to circuses. You don't wear leather. A whole variety of things that are part of what's called the vegan lifestyle. And it just later on became a good diet because essentially what they found out in health is that you live longer and you live better if you eat low down the chain rather than way up where you're going to get a lot of fat and especially saturated fat. You're going to get a lot of that in your diet, if you eat meat and so on. So anyway, those are a couple of characteristics about me. And the last one is I'm a Buddhist. I used to be a Catholic, um, but after my first divorce, I decided, that wasn't for me, and actually I was thinking about that for a long time, and eventually I found Buddhism, and Buddhism kind of spoke to me. I'm a insight meditation person, Vipassana it's called. And by the way, if you have any questions or comments about any of the things I say in here, or just let me know. You can always email me, or yeah, that's the best way. Either to email at school or to email here, my home one. Something about the class. See, I didn't talk about myself very long, but anyway, something about the class. You got the weekly essays, 4 questions every week, paper projects. I put down here every other week, but actually it's almost every week because this is a summer class. It's every other week during the semester, but it's I should have changed this. It's every week except for the last week. So I think there's going to be 7 papers altogether. They're essentially short. Um, they're essentially short projects. You'll see them online. You'll see the project. You got a bunch of them to choose from. You can choose them in any order. Choose any ones that interest you. If you want to do a particular one more than once, like visiting a governor's site, and you want to go to a second governor or a third governor or something like that, let me know and I'll see if I okay it. Third thing is civic engagement exercises. There's 4 of these over the semesters, where you have to demonstrate that you are involved in some way in politics. You'll see, like, for example, registering to vote. And if you register to vote already, you can just write a very, very short essay on what the process was like, something like that, if you're already registered. So if you got any questions about these exercises, just let me know, or anything about anything in the class. And then postings on the discussion board. I've got 5 of them here. Um, if I change my mind and we don't do 5, but I'll let you know. But that's essentially what it is. 4 exercises, civic engagement exercises, 5 postings. The postings are based on controversial issues. I put the issues up, and then I put a little article, pros and cons or whatever, about the article. Like, for example, abortion, and then you could read the brief essay about the pros of abortion and the anti-abortion, and then you just pick whatever you want with either side and write on the discussion board. Just write some essay that what your thoughts are on it. That's all. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to agree with me. I don't care. When I was in the classroom, I had a lot of students who were conservatives, and they came to my class and took my class, and a lot of them were relatively satisfied, because I don't care what you are. Okay, in terms of writing essays, here's what I put down. Read the material in the book and the notes. This is the weekly questions I'm talking about. Read the material in the book and the notes. Those are both online. And not the book isn't online, but you got to buy the book in a bookstore. But the notes are online. You watch the podcast, which will be similar in format to what I'm presenting to you right here. You write the essay in your own words. If you'll notice, when I go through the questions with you, but the best way to do it is to write essays in your own words, to demonstrate to me that and you understand what I'm talking about, or what the book's talking about, and use examples where possible to back up your ideas. Again, like with the discussion board, I don't care what particular issues you stand on and where you stand, whether you're pro-guns or anti-guns or pro-abortion or anti-abortion or whatever it is. I don't care. You have a right to that. That's why I don't care. I mean, it's not that I don't care about people. It's that you have a right to your own opinion. and just recognize that you need to back it up whenever you're talking to people, because you don't want to just sound like you don't know what you're doing. You just adapted these opinions from your mother or father or somebody else who you hold in high regard. And cite sources where possible if you want to. It's not required, but cite the book, cite me, whatever you're using. You can use the internet too to find information out. Just try to use creditable sources. Paper projects, read the assignment carefully. And I say that because the second one, which is answer all the questions. If you read the assignment carefully and you know what all the questions are in the assignment, and you answer all those assignments, you'll be fine. And you should make it between 3 and 5 pages. That's so you know kind of what I'm looking for. That if it's less than that, it's probably going to be too brief. Less than 3 pages, I would say it's going to be too brief. And that's just to give you an idea, because students, the amount is not as critical as what you say, but students really feel comfortable if you tell them how long things have to be. The civic engagement, these are projects you report on. You don't have to write very long things about them. 1 page is usually enough. I put down in the last one here 1 to 3 pages, but most of the time you don't even have to do that. A paragraph or 2, sometimes some pictures of what you saw online or what the process is, will be good enough. Personal experience always works. So if you just say, well, I in an attempt to reach a public official or something, I had these problems and I never did talk to them or something like that. Or I went to a meeting and not much really happened, or where it didn't kind of work out. I'm thinking of things that kind of didn't work out. If you just use your personal experience so you can demonstrate to me that you actually did it, then I'm good to go. The main thing is to do what is required when you write a short report explaining what you did. So I think you'll see that when you look at the civic engagement stuff. And you should look at all the website once it's up and available to you. You should check out all the different buttons and make sure you understand the stuff. And if you don't, just email me and I'll be happy to talk to you about it. The discussion board, you pick an issue. I think I talked a little bit about this already. Pick an issue that interests you. Read the essay associated with the issue. If you like, you can write a response to someone else somebody else has written. So in other words, if you look at the board and you see that somebody wrote about gun control and they were pro-gun and you're anti-gun, you could write about that. Just be friendly in the way you write and be civil. I always put a link to the do's and don'ts in etiquette about writing online. Most people are not very civil. If you read any kind of comments and stuff, they're mean and vicious, and we just don't want to do that. When you go to college, you try to be different than that in a lot of ways. Be civil. Try to keep what you write as objective as possible, even though you're giving your opinion. So in other words, you try to cite information that you found or information that you think is relevant to the source of your opinion. Nobody cares really about another person's opinion unless it's way off the wall, unless they're really going to pay attention to your opinion, if you can cite information that is demonstrating why you think the way you do. And never make it personal. My God, we live in a society where everything is personal now. When I grew up, conservatives and liberals didn't attack each other as people. Nobody said, this person is ugly or this person is stupid or any of that kind of stuff that you hear now, all the way up to the presidential level. No, you just talk about the ideas, not the person. Okay, something about grades, because I should say I didn't think about this until now, but I should have said something about grades, because students are interested in it, interested in grades. So, oh, I got this wrong. The numbers are wrong. I'm gonna have to do this over. I'll send you something on this, or you can, if you just look in the syllabus, that'd be better, because this was based on the weekly assignments in 16 weeks, not in 8 weeks, because I wasn't thinking about that. We're down to 8 weeks in the summertime. So anyway, I'll make sure that's changed on the syllabus. So just check the syllabus, go through it, and you'll see grades, and then you'll see what's um, put in there for summertime. So it will be 8 times 16 and not 15 times 16. Um, and then everything else is the same. So the weekly essays, that's the only thing that has to be changed. And then the grades, the numbers will be a little bit lower or whatever that comes to. I'll work it out so that the numbers are more accurately reflecting what A, B, C, and D is. This is the textbook, Dye and McManus, Politics in States and Communities. You can probably use any edition. They are in the 15th edition. The advantage of having the newest one is that any assignments that I give, or any identification of what's in the book, would be from the 15th edition. You had a different edition, it probably have different page numbers. That's really all about the only difference. This covers both state and local government. Half the course is dealing with state government. All 50 states are talked about, although I don't, in the book they are, I don't really talk about all 50 states. I kind of just focus on the answers to the questions in the podcast. But if, one of the things I would say is that it's very complicated. State and local government is complicated because no two states in all the 50 states are the same. They have different laws, different approaches to things, and to some degree they're the same. They've all got a governor and a legislature and courts and stuff, but they all have their own political cultures, and they all operate differently. So that's a real challenge to kind of learn that. Even you can kind of tell that from where you live. Like if you live in Illinois, Illinois government is very different from Wisconsin, we'll say. Wisconsin is quite a bit different in terms of the political culture and attitude about corruption and so on than it is in Illinois. And then the second part has to do with local government. We'll spend the second half of this thing on local government. It's lumped together because it's 8 weeks and not 16. But this is really the challenge, is local government, because there's thousands of local governments, and which you'll see. And I would say that a lot of them are different from each other. Cities, counties, they're all different. Um, I'll use, when I talk about this stuff, I'll compare, say, New Mexico with Illinois, and they're drastically different in some ways, but in others they're very similar. Anyway, it's a challenge, and I hope we're all up to it.